Your waistline didn't grow because you ate wrong for a day. And it didn't grow because you suddenly became lazier than last year. It grew quietly, while everything on the surface still looked the same clothes, just a little tighter, mornings a little heavier, and you reassuring yourself that it's just age, work, the rhythm of life. But the more uncomfortable truth lies deeper under the skin. Your body has begun speaking to you through hormones. And belly fat is the first sentence. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't cry for help. It simply appears as a biological notification that your internal system is shifting. That testosterone, the signal that once kept muscle, energy, and fat burning running smoothly, is no longer fully holding the steering wheel. When testosterone begins to decline, the first thing that changes is not fat gain, but muscle demanding less energy. The tiny power plants inside muscle cells slow down. You eat the same way, but your body burns less, and excess energy has to go somewhere. It doesn't choose randomly. It chooses the abdomen, because visceral fat reacts extremely fast to hormonal shifts and stress faster than your willpower can adapt. So while you still believe you're managing life fairly well, an invisible negotiation has already taken place inside you. Muscle steps back, fat steps forward, and your waistline becomes the written record of that agreement. Then you start noticing something familiar that few people connect to the real cause. You still train, but you get tired faster, recovery takes longer, strength slips away like sand through your fingers, and you blame age, lack of sleep, or your schedule. Biology doesn't assign blame. It simply responds. When muscle loses hormonal support, it shrinks. Resting metabolic rate drops, and the question your body keeps asking, whether you hear it or not, is simple. Where should the leftover energy go now? The answer is always the same. Send it to the belly, because the belly is ready to hold it. The problem is that belly fat is not obedient. It doesn't sit quietly. It releases inflammatory signals throughout the body, reaching the liver, blood vessels, even the brain, making you more irritable, more foggy, less driven, and ironically, that same inflammation makes the remaining testosterone harder to use. The hormone is still present in the blood, but the cellular lock has begun to jam. You do more, yet get less in return, not because you're weak, but because biology is actively defending a storage state. At this point, many people turn to harsher dieting, skipping meals, cutting everything they can, yet the waistline barely moves. This is where insulin enters the story. Low testosterone reduces insulin sensitivity, and when insulin stays high, it delivers one unbreakable command: store fat. Do not burn it, especially visceral fat. You feel drained during workouts because energy is locked away. You crave sweets because the body is trying to survive, and you begin doubting yourself. While the truth is that you're stuck inside a biological loop where willpower cannot overpower hormones. It doesn't stop there. Belly fat does something even more dangerous. It converts testosterone into estrogen within itself, turning the abdominal area into a small chemical factory. The more fat you carry, the larger the factory becomes. And the more testosterone is transformed, pushing the hormonal environment further towards storage. That's why many people don't just gain fat, they feel less confident, less driven to train, mentally dulled without knowing why, because chemistry has begun rewriting behavior. But this story does not end in hopelessness, because the human body still carries an ancient biological memory: metabolic flexibility. When insulin calms down, when inflammation recedes, when circadian rhythm is respected, mitochondria can light back up. Fat stops being just a burden and becomes an energy reserve that can be unlocked. What's interesting is that the first changes don't show up in the mirror, but in how you feel. Clearer thinking, deeper sleep, better recovery, effort feeling lighter, as if the body stops resisting you and starts cooperating again. The key takeaway I want you to hold on to is not a trick or a diet, but a perspective. Belly fat is not a cosmetic enemy. It is a biological message. Testosterone, insulin, inflammation, and visceral fat are in constant conversation. And you can change that conversation by sending signals that are correct, consistent, and safe for the body. Not everyone needs hormonal intervention, and no one should rush to chase numbers, because health doesn't come from force, it comes from restoring harmony across the system. When you understand this, self-blame fades, and you begin doing something far more powerful, listening to and redesigning the signals your body receives from the life you're living. There is one more piece that many people miss, and if it is not made clear, you can easily fall back into the old loop even after understanding the problem correctly. That piece is this: the body does not respond to isolated actions. It responds to prolonged signal environments. Testosterone does not drop because you missed a few workouts or ate poorly for a single week. It drops when the nervous system lives too long in a state of vigilance, when sleep is fragmented, when stress is treated as normal, and when energy is constantly withdrawn before it is restored. In that context, the body learns one simple rule: conserve, do not risk, do not burn. From a scientific perspective, this is the moment when the brain hormone metabolism axis becomes misaligned. When the brain receives too many danger signals, it prioritizes cortisol. Elevated cortisol raises insulin. High insulin locks fat, inflammation increases, and testosterone receptors become less responsive. Even if the hormone is still being produced, its biological effectiveness drops. This is why many people fall into the illusion of low testosterone, when the deeper issue is that the body no longer believes the current living environment is safe enough to use testosterone. Biology always prioritizes survival before appearance. This explains why the most effective changes often sound very unsexy. Deeper sleep, more consistent recovery, a stable circadian rhythm, enough movement without forcing intensity, and eating in a way that reduces insulin stimulation rather than simply cutting calories. These signals are not dramatic, but they tell the nervous system that the environment is no longer an emergency. When the sense of safety returns, hormones are finally allowed to perform their intended roles. One very real insight I see repeatedly is this: when you stop fighting your body, your waistline begins to change. Not because you give up, but because you stop sending survival signals every day. The body does not need motivation. It needs consistency. And when insulin drops, inflammation recedes, and hormone receptors reopen, fat burning becomes far more natural, even when you are no longer trying as hard as before. If you are still watching and you see yourself in this story, remember one thing: you are not broken, you are not weak, and you have not failed. You have simply been operating inside a biological system that has been set to the wrong rhythm for too long. This channel exists to help you understand the body as a system, not as a machine that needs more discipline. If you want to keep exploring the real mechanisms behind belly fat, hormones, insulin, stress, and how to redesign daily life signals through clear, science-based explanations, subscribe to the channel and follow along so we can continue unpacking each layer slowly but in the right direction. You do not need more pressure. You need more understanding, and that is the journey we are walking together. Before this video ends, I want you to hold on to one very direct but also relieving truth. If your belly fat has been there for a long time, it did not appear because you lacked discipline, but because your body learned how to protect itself in a living environment that has been too stressful to safely burn energy. You do not need more self-blame, and you do not need more extreme plans that push the nervous system into even greater alarm. What you need is a shift in perspective. Belly fat is not a sentence. It is biological data accurately reflecting your hormone balance, insulin state, and the level of safety your body feels each day. When you understand this, a very familiar weight begins to lift. You stop comparing yourself to others, stop forcing your body to move faster than biology allows, and start rebuilding the foundation in the correct order. The body does not need to be pushed to change. It needs to be allowed to change. And when the right signals are repeated long enough, hormones recalibrate. Fat begins to leave on its own, quietly and without drama, but sustainably. If you are looking for a place that does not promise miracles or sell empty motivation, but helps you understand why your body responds the way it does and how to make it cooperate again, then you are in the right channel. Stay here. Follow the channel, because this journey is not about becoming a more strained version of yourself, but a healthier, clearer, and lighter version from the inside out. And when that happens, your waistline is simply the last change you will notice.